What's the deal with Sacramento State? Do they really have $40 million in NIL? Are they really going to be a future member of either the Mountain West or the Pac 12 conference? Some of these claims that are coming out of that university are incredibly suspicious. I'm going to break it down for you. This is the Let's Run podcast. Folks, thank you so much for jumping in to the show today. I hope that you will like the video, that you will subscribe to the channel as we climb, as we build this community. I appreciate your patience with me, and I appreciate your feedback and your comments on these videos. I hope that you will let me know your thoughts about Sacramento State. And this will be the first video in a new realignment series. I'm hoping to have it done before the start of the college football season in late August, where I kind of want to go through every single school that's being talked about in conference realignment, mostly on the G5 level. Not going to go into like the ACC, the Big 12 kind of stuff, because most of those schools are pretty safe in their power distinctions and power conferences. But I want to talk about each school individually, and I thought there's no better place to start than the complete wild card that is Sacramento State. So if you're a Sacramento State fan, I hope this video gets to you. I hope that you will let me know your thoughts. Go ahead and email me, DM me on Twitter. I want to know your opinions. I want you to know if you think that I'm completely off. I'm an outsider, obviously, so I don't know the details of Sacramento State as well as you would if you're a Sacramento State fan. But in general, I want to talk about some of the crazy claims that have been coming out of Sacramento, some of the ambitious goals that Sacramento State has as a program, and realistically, their value in conference realignment, and if I believe in them. So let's break out the slideshow and let's talk about it. What's the deal with Sac State? So Sacramento State in 2023 hired their current athletic director. I think his name is Luke something. I apologize. I had his name down and I want to make sure that I don't get it. I don't get it wrong. So his name is Mark Orr. I thought there was another guy. Interesting. I thought there was somebody else, Luke something. But essentially, what's been going on is Sacramento State has been really trying to promote their college athletics program. They think that the city of Sacramento, and I think they're actually right about this, is kind of an untapped market in the world of college sports. They have been primarily an FCS. Well, they've been an FCS school in the realm of college football. Their college basketball program also hasn't been the greatest, but they've made some pretty significant steps recently. So in September 2024, when the Mountain West Pac-12 debacle was going on with the conferences splitting apart and the Mountain West using litigation and the Pac-12 taking most of the Mountain West best brands, Sacramento State essentially went on a PR campaign where it launched a NIL, and I think it's a little disingenuous their use of the word NIL, because it's not just about paying players specifically. If it's more about providing funds to the athletic department holistically. So it's not just NIL, name, image, and likeness funds. This is just money for the Sacramento State basketball and football program to get where that the leadership at Sacramento State wants it to be. Also in September, Sacramento State's announced a new football stadium. I think they're just over 10,000 is their current stadium. It's like University Stadium or something. It's not a very nice facility. They are planning on doing some upgrades with it. And I think that this new stadium, supposedly new stadium, will be essentially like a huge remodeling of their old one. I mean, they're basically going to tear it down and build a new one in the same exact spot. But their plan is to build a 25,000 seat football stadium designed by a company named Populous, and that they're going to use private equity essentially to do this, which I think is smart. It's difficult to build a stadium in a short time period with public funds, although they probably could get some level of public funds for this just because it would be a boon for the economy of Sacramento. But essentially they put out this committee. They're talking about all this NIL money that they're raising. But I think it's important to note that this NIL money is in pledges. It's not money that Sacramento State has sitting in a bank account. And a lot of these pledges, which I'll talk about more later, are contingent on them actually, becoming a D1 football program, and them actually, they have promises they have to fulfill if they want to get this $35 million. And to be honest, I don't know that all of this money is promised in liquid cash, or if it's like initial. I think Sacramento State's just trying to do a PR job to put their name out there, and it worked. It's worked pretty well. However, defamation and PR firms has been all the rage in the Pac-12 Mountain West state, in the Pac-12 Mountain West world as of late. And so Sac State is a pretty good example of how schools, conferences, agents in college sports use media to try and control a narrative. And that's exactly what Sacramento State did, especially early in September. Naming their committee, the Sac-12 committee, made it pretty clear that Sacramento State was trying to get a spot into the Pac-12. And as of right now, that's not the case, and it's not likely to be the case in the near future, but I'll break that down a bit more later. In 2024, they also hired Brennan Marion. This isn't on there, but they hired Brennan Marion. Now, as a UNLV guy, Brennan Marion is certainly a person that we know plenty about here in Vegas. Brennan Marion was the offensive coordinator under Barry Odom for 2 years. He did an outstanding job as our offensive coordinator. Really had a fun style. The go-go offense is an incredibly fun style to watch, an incredibly fun style to play, if not a little predictable after a while. But the highlight of Brennan Marion's career in Las Vegas, the now head coach at Sacramento State, was, of course, the Matthew Sluka debacle, where Brennan Marion essentially made financial promises, allegedly, to Matthew Sluka, who did not receive that money. And Brennan Marion was kind of the fall guy on this situation, and I think rightly so. I don't think Barry Odom was sitting there promising Matthew Sluka anything individually, but I do think Brennan Marion probably did make a mistake in how he handled that situation. And also the agent. It was the guy that was representing Matthew Sluka wasn't even an agent in the state of Nevada. So, I mean, even legally, he wasn't entitled or able to enter to negotiate a contract on behalf of Matthew Sluka. But essentially, it was a botched situation by all parties. And there was some momentum to hire Brennan Marion as the head coach when Barry Odom left. Gladly, I'm very glad that we didn't go that route. And after the Matthew Sluka debacle, that was essentially impossible. But I'm very glad that we went with Dan Mullen, obviously. But Brennan Marion's a very flashy head coach. He's a good recruiter. And hopefully he can actually, fulfill the promises he's making to the kids who are committing to an FCS, as of right now, football program. Additionally, Sacramento State hired Mike Bibby, who is an ex NBA player, kind of a, really cool guy. I think Mike Bibby, a few podcasts that he's been on, and he's friends with Shaquille O'Neal, who joined as an advisor. There were some reports that Shaquille O'Neal was joining Sacramento State as a GM. I don't think that's his official role, but he is advising the program moving forward. In June, Sacramento State accepted an offer to join the Big West for all non-football sports. This is going to be their home while they try and figure out what to do with football. And then, of course, in June, also, the NCAA FBS Oversight Committee recommended a denial of their FBS application due to lack of conference. Essentially, Sacramento State didn't have a conference to join, and so the FBS was like, we're not just gonna give you FBS status. You have to have a place you're going to go to if you're going to be an FBS team. Sacramento State obviously has made a few attempts to not overwrite this decision, but fight this decision. They hired a very prominent antitrust attorney to try and fight the NCAA's decision. And we'll see if they can pull it off. But essentially, there is no, the Pac-12 is not going to add them. The Mountain West can't legally add them. And I'll explain that in a bit more in a bit. But, they're trying to fight for what's going to be an independent status as a football program. I have in the thumbnail describing them as a house of cards, but I think that's pretty accurate. They have a lot of claims, they have a lot of plans, they have a lot of goals, but I feel like a lot of it's pretty unstable. So let's talk about the questions about the veracity of the claims that Sac State is making. A lot of critics have questioned Sacramento State's actual readiness to join the FBS. They were 3-9 as an FCS school last season. Their attendance has been historically pretty bad. They have never been, as of right now, a pull in the TV market in which they're situated. People think that the claims that they're making are unrealistic. That they're claiming they're going to all do all these things. There's a sports finance analyst named Bill Farley who says that they did a feasibility study essentially for all of Sacramento State's claims based on their financial data and projections, and just didn't see how this was going to how this was actually going to play out. A lot of the NIL pledges are contingent, apparently, on an FBS invitation, which hasn't happened yet and is not guaranteed to happen. Doug Gottlieb, who a much maligned commentator who is now the head coach at Green Bay in Division I basketball, was basically mocking their $50 million NIL claim as an exaggerated media hype, story built up by a PR firm. And there's just been a lot of criticism about it. Just seems like a fugazi, like it just doesn't seem real. And again, the NCAA Oversight Committee denying their FBS bid due to a lack of conference was a huge deal. The football's kind of in limbo. And so Sacramento State's going into litigation against the NCAA, which that's kind of a crapshoot unless you're a student athlete, right now. And they don't have a conference to play in. And so the thought is that they're probably going to try and play an independent football schedule starting in 2026. But there's just a lot of things up in the air. Let's look at their facilities. So right now they have Hornet Stadium, 20,000 seats, opened in 1969, kind of old. Their football stadium is not great. It kind of seems like a pretty bad high school stadium, a big, but it's big. It's plenty of seats. It's just not the greatest football facility. It's pretty old. Where they play basketball is really bad. It's a 1,000 seat gym. It was built in 1955. They have already broken ground on a new basketball center where they're going to play games called the Well. That's going to be, I believe, 6,000 people can fit in there. But even their new basketball center is woefully inept to be a part of the Pac-12. I know that Gonzaga has a small basketball facility, but Gonzaga's Gonzaga. They kind of play by their own rules. If you look at the rest of the Mountain West, Save Mart Center in Fresno is pretty big. Viejas Arena is wonderful in San Diego, obviously. Utah State, if you've ever been to Spectrum, is a great place to play basketball. Boise State, is it called Extra Mile right now? It used to be called the Taco Bell Center. But even if you compare this new basketball arena that Sacramento State is going to be building to current Pac-12 arenas or even Mountain West arenas, I mean, every Mountain West arena outside of, actually, I think they're all pretty good. Even GCU has an okay basketball arena. There's levels to this, and even their new basketball center is not good enough, to be honest with you. There has been rumors that they're going to play where the Sacramento Kings play. I can't remember the name of that arena, but that would be a better alternative than playing in this, glorified high school gym. Even their new one, I can't see it. I can't see the vision there. The Pac-12 might look past that, especially if they're adding schools like St. Mary's for basketball. The Mountain West would probably be okay with it, but it's just not a great. Even their new facility is just not great in my view, in my eyes. In terms of their new football stadium that they're planning on getting it up to 25,000 seats, making it kind of state of the art. Their goal is to try and emulate Snapdragon Stadium, which I'm going to do. My next video is going to be on San Diego State in this conference realignment kind of value series that I'm going to do. And talking about how that football program can get back on its feet. But their goal is to kind of model it after Snapdragon, which I think is a very good facility. And this new football stadium looks great. I'm glad they have a designer. I'm glad they have a place that they're going to do it. But it's just hard to believe that a privately funded stadium whose funding is probably contingent on them being D1 and being FBS, like, I'm gonna believe the new football stadium when I see it. Now they have plans to upgrade it now, to upgrade their stadium right now, a phase one plan, which will apparently be available this season in the 2025 season, where they're adding ribbon boards, new restrooms, home side seating, and better lighting. But that's just phase one, apparently. Um, I don't like their basketball facility, even their new one. You know, if they're going to build a new one, build a real basketball gym. Don't build build a real basketball arena. Don't build a gym. And I will believe their football stadium when I see it, because so much of it seems contingent on them getting that FBS invite. And if you're relying on litigation to do that, I'll believe it when I see it. So facilities, I think they're just a long way away. And this is a lot of the reason, not a lot of the reason, but a big reason as to why they're not a serious candidate for either the Mountain West or the Pac-12, and why they shouldn't be as of right now either. But another thing about Sacramento State is, if you look kind of at an overhead of where they are, it's a cool little campus. It's 30,000 students, so it's not a small school by any means. It's right alongside a river. There's the football stadium. The basketball's, I don't know where it is. I think it's over here. But they're very landlocked. They don't have a ton of land. And they're pretty close to downtown Sacramento, relatively. I mean, I know in California, in the West Coast, basically close is relative, but they're pretty close to downtown Sacramento. I feel like their stadium and their campus situation also isn't ideal, although I do like the location. And by ideal, I mean for a big time stadium and for the plans that they're proposing. But they're just a little landlocked. It's not a big enough campus. Sometimes I feel, to support the kind of claims that they're making. However, they do have the room on their campus for the football stadium. I worry about where they could build a real basketball stadium arena. And with this new one, I don't think they're ever going to have a real basketball arena. So if they could play basketball where the Kings play, that might be a better alternative. But I'm not saying that this is a killer for Sacramento State, their geography, but just the location of the campus, I think, is a bit of an issue. So let's talk about, I've been pretty skeptical. Let's talk about why to believe in Sacramento State. So first, Sacramento, California is the 20th largest media market in the United States. It's a big deal. That's a big market. And there is no other public university competing in Sacramento for the market of Sacramento. Now, that means, like Vegas, a lot of the residents are probably just fans of Power 5 schools that aren't in Sacramento, obviously. But that just means that there is an untapped potential in that market. And it's a big market. It's a good market. Northern California is a big deal. And so, I really think that their position in Sacramento is incredibly advantageous to them and gives them real weight to build something for the future. Again, a 30,000, student body, that's a good sized student body. Again, I get some of the skepticism with the NIL claim, but a lot of this is local businesses in the city of Sacramento. And just being able to put out that report in the first place, I think kind of means something, even if you don't believe it completely. It's better than nothing. This $35 million pledge to the athletic program is a big deal, and it's real. That doesn't mean it's $35 million real, but it does mean that there are businesses, and the community of Sacramento really does seem to want to get behind Sacramento State. To what extent, I don't know, but there is a community level of support apparently there. I don't think it's 35 million, but there is a community and business support to Sacramento State. This new leadership definitely has the right ideas, and I don't blame them for trying to push this forward. Mike Bibby was a really good basketball hire, in my opinion. Now, I don't know if he'll actually be a great coach or anything, but it was good publicity. And, you had Shams Charania talking about how Sacramento State was going to bring on Shaquille O'Neal in a role. And Brennan Marion, really good hire. I think he'll do very good things next season at the FCS level at Sacramento State. And his recruiting has been outstanding at Sacramento State. In fact, he brought a couple of Rebels with him. A Rebel that I really liked in Damian McDaniel as a receiver, he took to Sacramento State with him. And he's been getting players to come play for him at Sacramento State at a really impressive level. In fact, his recruiting class is better than a lot of the FBS, including Mountain West and Pac-12 schools. And so Brennan Marion was a great hire, in my opinion, for Sacramento State. And I think he'll do good things there. Although, again, there is always that worry that he is going to be making promises that he can't keep as the head coach, at least financially. And again, a lot of this is contingent on them getting that FBS invite eventually, and acting as an independent. Even though you're not in FBS school, that's pretty costly and going to be very difficult for Pac-12 for Sacramento State. Like, a lot of people have suggested that Sacramento State will just do a scheduling agreement with the Pac-12, and they're going to go 0-12 if they do that. And I know that they have an impressive recruiting class, but they can't. I don't see the feasibility of that. And again, there's just not a ton. They might do it with the Mountain West. I think that is probably a better outcome for them. But I think people are just ignoring the logistics of how difficult it is to be an independent school. I saw that firsthand as a BYU fan. I think UConn in football has definitely struggled with that mightily. And so people are just saying, oh, they'll go independent and they'll have a scheduling agreement with the Pac-12. And I don't see that. I think that that's pretty difficult to pull off. And if they do pull that off, that'll be pretty impressive. So why to doubt Sac State? Again, why haven't they been better at the FCS level? They have not been a good FCS program, really. They don't have a ton of success basketball wise either. Think about their current basketball facility, 1,000 seats, and it doesn't even, sell out or anything. Again, the NIL pledges are conditional. The NCAA has power over Sacramento State, and I don't trust the NCAA. The new stadium construction hasn't started yet. It's a large media market, but a lot like Las Vegas, it has a very weak track record of fan engagement. But at least Las Vegas, you could point back to the Jerry Tarkanian days. They were completely behind UNLV as a university back then in terms of athletics. Sacramento State doesn't even have that. And again, when you go into their options as of conferences, the West Coast really only has 2 conferences that they could join, the Pac-12 or the Mountain West, and neither of those look likely either. The biggest issue for Sac State is UC Davis. That's the biggest problem for Sacramento State. Now, UC Davis and Sacramento State aren't that close to each other. They don't cover the exact same market or anything, but UC Davis was really smart in how they went about conference realignment. And I have been very critical of the UC Davis role in the new Mountain West. I was like, why did we add UC Davis? UC Davis is a prestigious academic institution. It too has a massive student body. It has more students. I think it's 40,000. It has a real football program with real success. Now it's at the FCS level, but it's still winning consistently, unlike Sacramento State. It's got a better football stadium right now than Sacramento State does, even if it's not a great football stadium in its own right. They have better facilities than Sacramento State. They have more success in basketball. Not that they're some basketball powerhouse or anything, than Sacramento State. And most importantly, they have a $2 billion or $1.5 billion endowment as a juggernaut academic institution. So they have, people are talking about this $50 million conditional NIL pledge that Sacramento State has. UC Davis has basically unlimited funds. And that doesn't mean they're all going to go to athletics, but just the financial backing behind UC Davis is a lot bigger than Sacramento State. Most importantly, UC Davis has an agreement with the Mountain West stating that the Mountain West is not going to add a all sports member before UC Davis that is coming up from the FCS level, apparently. This was reported by Chris Murray, who does good stuff at Reno Sportsnet. And so the Mountain West contractually cannot add Sacramento State as a member before UC Davis. I don't think they can add a school like North Dakota State as a member before UC Davis. I'm not sure how it works with football only, but essentially UC Davis is gearing up to make the jump to D1 football in the next 5 years, much like Sacramento State is. But UC Davis is on a more realistic timeline, has better finances, and has an agreement, basically a first look agreement with the Mountain West. So that essentially takes Sacramento State out of play for the Mountain West. The Pac-12, on the other hand, has an image thing. They don't want to take an FCS program. Now, in 6 years, if Sac State has been killing it as a member of some football conference and has been winning at the D1 level and they have their new stadium, yeah, the Pac-12 would take them in 2031 or 2032. But who knows what the Mountain West and Pac-12 are even going to look like in 2031 or 2032. And the Pac-12, frankly, I would rather have New Mexico State. I would rather have schools or Rice, or I would rather hold out. Certainly you have no incentive to add Sacramento State in the next few years. And so really, there's nowhere for Sac State to go. And the thought of them being an independent in this day and age just seems insane to me for any sustained period of time. If they did it for a year, maybe. So what are Sac State's options? It's probably to try and join maybe Conference USA as a football only member and build there. Maybe Conference USA would take them. I think they probably would, although it would be logistically difficult. But if it was football only, they might go for it. Maybe trying to join the Mountain West in a non-football role first, like UC Davis did. But I think UC Davis kind of boxed out Sacramento State. And so my conclusion and closing thoughts are, and again, if you're a Sacramento State fan, you have a problem with me saying this, is that it's all fugazi. They've got the they've got the con man himself. I don't want to call him a con man. That's a bit harsh for Brennan Marion, but they've got the face of the Matthew Sluka debacle, essentially, at least in my eyes. They've got Mike Bibby, who I have no idea if he's a good basketball coach or not. They've got supposedly Shaquille O'Neal, but we don't really know what his role is. They've got a crappy new, not crappy, it'll be a nice facility, but a new basketball facility that isn't adequate. And they've got a football facility that has no guarantee of ever being built. And all of this, and they've got all these funds supposedly, but they're all contingent on something that we don't know is going to happen. I think Sacramento State is 5 or 6 years away. In fact, I would rather them just upgrade their stadium right now, start winning big at the basketball level, and start winning consistently at FCS for a few years before they start thinking about moving up to, FBS. Playing as an independent, they can do that, even if they're not officially FBS. But I think that will financially drain the school, and I don't know that they'll be able to maintain that support that they supposedly have. And so my closing thought is Sacramento State's a house of cards. There is a path where it could work out for them, but I don't believe in it. I would love for the Mountain West to add Sacramento State, but in 2028, 2029, 2030, when they've proven that they have the infrastructure actually in place. And it puts them in a really rough spot. If they could add Sacramento State as football only, I think the UC Davis thing, boxing them out, is a really big deal. And so I would be okay with adding Sacramento State in the Mountain West, contingent on them actually having that new stadium under construction. If I knew it was under construction, I'd be more happy with it than, if it was just like, oh, well, we did our little $2 million upgrade and we'll see about the stadium in the future. But I really think the Mountain West, I am more inclined to believe in UC Davis than I am in Sacramento State. And so therefore, I'm betting against them, even though I like them, even though I hope that they eventually join the Mountain West. I'm betting against them. Hopefully they can pull this off. I think it's good for the world of college sports if the city of Sacramento has a legitimate D1 college football program in it. I actually, believe it or not, despite my negative, view here, I am rooting for Sacramento State. I want them to succeed. I really do, but I don't think they will. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. And by succeed, I don't think that they will be where they want to be in 2026 or 2027. Maybe by 2028 or 2029, they can get there, but it's too tall of a hill to climb right now. And I worry that they have created a house of cards that will come tumbling down. Folks, thank you so much. This is episode 1 of the Conference Realignment series, where we go school by school. Up next will be San Diego State. Really looking forward to diving into that program. Hopefully, if you're a San Diego State fan, reach out to me. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that program and where it's going. And if you're a Sacramento State fan, again, please let me know. Please let me know what you think. I appreciate you all. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And let's run, Rebels.